Hello everyone. In today's video we'll be looking at how to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. Now we're going to take for granted that everyone is okay with the concept of adding two positive numbers. That would simply be, let's say, 3 and 5, which gives us 8. And hopefully everyone is also comfortable with adding two negative numbers, such as -3 and -5. And typically you would not see it written as this in school. They would simply combine the two signs, and we know that a positive and negative will always be a negative sign, so we have -3, -5. And the way to think about this is, let's say you owed someone $3 and then you owed someone else $5. Then in total you actually owe $8. And that's how we approach two negative numbers. But for today, what we would like to take a look at is how to add and subtract when one number is negative and another number is positive. In this example, we're going to keep the same idea of owing money. Let's say, for example, you owed someone $10 and then you actually have $3. What would this look like? Well, because you owe, that's a -10, and you have $3, so that's a +3. What happens if you owe someone 10 and you have 3 and you paid them that 3? Well, you would still owe them $7. So what we do is we subtract the smaller number from the bigger number, irrespective of what the signs are on the numbers. Let's ignore that negative sign for now. Let's ignore this positive sign. We simply subtract 3 from 10 and we have 7, and then we keep the sign of the larger number, which is a -10, so that would be a -7. So we owe 10, we actually have 3 to pay them back, so we still owe them 7. Let's look at the reverse. If 3 was negative and the 10 was positive, what is the same idea? You owe someone $3, you actually have $10. So if you were to pay them the 3 you owe them, you'd be left with 7. But in this case, the sign on the bigger number is positive, and so we leave the 7 positive. So the big takeaway here is, whenever we're adding a positive and a negative number, we simply subtract the smaller number from the larger number and then keep the sign of whichever number is larger. Let me see if I could make that clearer for you. Great. Give you a moment to copy that down. And let's take a look at something that is a little bit more tricky. All right. Now, what do we do whenever both signs... Sorry, give me a moment. Yep. Whenever we have two negative signs that are right next to each other. Let's say, for example, we have 8 minus 5. How we treat this is to remember from multiplication and division that a negative number times a negative number will always give us a positive number. Likewise, a negative number divided by a negative number will always give us a positive number. So whenever you see two negative signs right next to each other, you just go right ahead and change that into a plus sign. And then you write the numbers back, and then you take it from there. Of course, 8 plus 5 is 13, and then you're done. What if one of the numbers, let's say 9, was negative, and then we still have two negative signs right next to each other, and let's say this is a 4? Well, it's the same approach. We change these two negative signs to a positive, we put this -9 back, then we put the 4 back. And now we have the same problem like we did in the previous example, where all we need to do from here is subtract the smaller number from the larger one, and 4 from 9 will give us 5, And then of course, we keep the sign of the larger number, which is a negative sign. And we know that we have a negative 5 for our answer. Hopefully this video will help you with your adding and subtraction of negative numbers, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe at the bottom of the video.